Well, welcome. We all needed a feel-good film, so I'm so glad you chose Drinkwater. These past few weeks and the months leading up to this all meant that Drinkwater is exactly the remedy we needed. It certainly was what I needed. And thrilled also that we are speaking with its director, Mr. Stephen Campanelli. Mr.
Hi.
Campanelli, Stephen, I guess you'll allow me to
Stephen's
call you.
fine, absolutely.
And if you said no, I'd been happy with Mr. Campanelli.
That's funny.
It's a great name, Campanelli. It really is a wonderful name to say. And when I started Drinkwater, first of all, I was going to wear my Toronto Maple Leaf sweatshirt for this interview.
Right.
The counterbalance, the Montreal sweatshirt that your hero wears at the beginning of the film. And then you fooled me because obviously you're a Montreal fan.
Right.
You donned your character in that, but then you parked the car in front of a huge Toronto Maple Leaf mural right near the beginning of the film. So you completely confused me. So here's my first question.
Right.
Where does your allegiance lie, Stephen?
Well, not to, I don't want to get any Ontarians upset with me. So, I do think the Maple Leafs are an incredible organization and team, but, being born and raised in Montreal, the Habs are my true heart and soul, and being in the old Forum growing up as a kid, it just was there. And literally the script, the first page was Mike gets out of bed and dons a Toronto Maple Leaf jersey. And it's literally the first thing I crossed off and put Montreal Canadiens jersey. So sorry to all the Maple Leaf fans, but as a director, you get to do that kind of stuff. So it was kind of fun, tongue in cheek. But my producers are from Ontario, and they grew up in Grimsby in that area. And so it's funny that, that's how they wrote it in there. And I said, well, can I just have that one thing? And that's how it ended up with a Canadiens jersey.
Well, if that's the one thing, then I'm sure they can deal with it. And there's not too many people out there that are going to really, really get up in arms about which team you choose.
Right.
But as I said, you did park it in that, right in front of that huge Toronto Maple Leaf mural. And so that pleased me, if it will.
That's great.
But, let's talk about, when I say confusion, I don't mean that the film confused me at all, but certainly I was trying to figure out, okay, where are we in this movie? And that's because of the music. And I see a jukebox right behind you.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
So music is incredibly important to you.
Yeah, music really is. Like in all the films I've directed, I haven't honestly had the luxury of having such an amazing soundtrack before in a movie. I've had great scores with great composers, and again on Drinkwater. But Drinkwater takes place in the modern times, but we wanted to give it an 80s feel and vibe, which is the era I grew up in and all that. So I asked, the producer, Graham Fraser, I said, can I infuse it with a lot of, 80s Canadiana? And I was like, he said, yeah, sure. And we put all these songs in the soundtrack in terms of an assembly, never thinking, this small little Canadian film would be able to afford it. But thank God for Graham. He opened up his wallet, and he ended up paying for all the songs. And we were just fantastic. Like, I just love the soundtrack, and I think everyone else will too.
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack, and it just really sets the tone for who Mike is. And then I also got the gut feeling that maybe you were a fan of Breaking Away.
Yes, that was one of the influence that Graham and I had talked about. Exactly that, the whole Breaking Away style. And then we wanted to have the comedy of like Napoleon Dynamite meets Juno, meets the John Hughes era, that kind of stuff. But yes, Breaking Away was one of the big influences for sure.
Yeah, which is one of my favorite films, and really got me into I was half expecting Eric McCormack to say there will be no Eenies in this household. And that's a Breaking Away reference.
Yeah, that's great.
I gotta ask you about the dialogue and the way that dialogue was delivered by your actors. I can never understand when dialogue flows so easily from an actor. I mean, they're trained to do that, but your actors, they trailed what they said. They sort of rambled, but in a kind of self-conscious way that really suited their character. Of course, I'm talking about Mike.
Yeah.
How do you how do you direct an actor to do that? How do you get that kind of insecurity, lovable insecurity coming out of him?
Well, you know, the key is to just hire really good people. Okay. And I got very lucky. Well, I'll start that over again.
Sorry, that was Siri answering my own question.
I get that too on my watch sometimes. Well, so how I get actors do that is you just hire really good actors that absorb the role and just become the role. And I was very lucky with Daniel Doheny and Louisa Tronco and my whole cast. The whole cast is tremendous. And one of the silver linings of COVID, I guess, was they were all available. And it was really an amazing experience to have this amazing Canadian talent all ready to jump onto this film. And it just worked out really well. Like, I think that's the key of being a good director and a producer, whatever it is. You just got to put the jigsaw puzzles together to make the complete picture. And we got very lucky because we had a very good script to begin with. And, you know, I changed a few things along the way to make it funnier and more intimate. And then my cast just took it upon themselves to really own their characters. So I had very few direction notes to give them because they just really were in the zone. And Daniel is just so amazing. He's just so rubbery, and facial expressions and all of that's incredible.
Yeah, you know, we were talking prior to, I was talking to one of the programmers about the film. And one of the things they brought up was that they were reminded of adventures in the public school, I think. And then that Daniel was in. And I thought, oh my God, that's right. That's where I've seen him before. Yeah. And that also is a great film. And the way he is in this movie, it almost seems like there's a lot of ad-libbing. Yes. He just is so, it's just really wonderful to watch. And, you know, when the lines are written, what he says is not particularly funny, but the way he delivers it is hilarious.
Yeah, he's a genius. He's just incredible. Like, he just, like you say, he takes the words off the page and he makes them his own, and he just infuses the character with this great charm, and his comedic timing is brilliant. And I mean, I ruined a lot of takes just laughing my head off because he would make up stuff that wasn't scripted that I was just not expecting, and I would just blurt out loud, and we're recording sound and I'm ruining the take. I'm not going to do it again. But it literally was moments like that where, you know, he just comes up with stuff and it's just hysterical. And, you know, he starts with what's on the script, but then he just expands upon it, and it just becomes this crazy thing. And I always shoot with 2 cameras so I can try and get the performances on that one take, or the rehearsal and things like that. So I don't have to do it too many times. So that's, you know, very lucky that we get that opportunity. I had a great crew, camera department, everybody, set dressing, everybody just came prepared for this movie. It was great.
When I was more involved in the industry, there was always this, the Canadian crews are the best crews. I mean, is that still the case?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, I've been blessed to work all over the world. And absolutely, the film crews in Canada are just phenomenal, just all across the country. Just, there's a really good heart and soul inside of them. Like, there's the love of cinema and just making movies and stuff. It's not just a job. I mean, it's, I feel that every time I work here in Canada. I mean, there's also always amazing crews in the United States and around the world where I've worked, and they're all tremendous, but somehow there's something about the Canadian crews. And I think that's why there's so much work up here now.
You'd be a good diplomat. You always find the other side in case, you know, the American crews are watching. You got that?
Yeah, well, that's the truth. I've lived in the States for 25 years, so I got a lot of great American friends. So don't want to tune them out.
No, and I was sort of looking over your CV before we got on, and you are sort of the king of working with people who we recognize by last name only. And I wrote a few of them down. We've got Brando, De Niro, Eastwood. I don't even have to name their first names. I mean, you don't look like you've been around long enough to work with Brando and De Niro.
That's a nice compliment. Thank you. Yeah, I did it. It was actually in Toronto. We did a movie called The Freshman with Marlon Brando and Matthew Broderick. Great film, actually. It's been very underrated, but it's a really good little film. That was a real pleasure. He was such a gentleman, such a nice guy. And I've got this amazing picture of me and him just having a can of Labatt's beer at the end of a wrap one day. And it's just arm in arm. And it's just tremendous memory from that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then
it's wonderful to ever, sit down and speak with someone that has that kind of film history. And also looking in behind you, I have to bring it up because it was such an important film, Indian Horse, which is an about face from what you're doing now. And I do want to focus on Drinkwater, because that's what we're here for. But going from Indian Horse to Drinkwater, I mean, that's two different sides of Stephen Campanelli, I imagine.
Yeah, and I think being a director, you should be versatile. I mean, there's a lot of amazing directors out there that can just do comedy, and there's a lot that do just drama or musicals. But nothing wrong with that, and they're very good at that. But I feel to be, versatile directors, just any form is fine as long as it's a good script. And Indian Horse was this horrible, tragic story that was unfolding in this novel that Richard Wagamese wrote, and the script was phenomenal. And I just wanted to be a part of it and tell that story. And I was very lucky to be able to do so. And the same with Drinkwater, complete opposite kind of feeling and movie, but it was just a good heart and soul and a good basis. And it all really comes down to the script and what, I asked Clint Eastwood why he makes the films he makes. And he says, if I want to see the film, I want to make the film. And I go, I feel the same way. So that's what's guided me to making the films I have so far.
Mm-hmm. And what a career he has had. We don't need to talk about Eastwood, but because we all know that. I do want to talk about the generational bonding that goes on in your film. But between Wallace and her grandparents and Mike and Hank, like you're merging. And then all of this is done with sort of an 80s feel. So clearly you are interested in generational gaps and closing those gaps.
Yeah, and I think that's a good question, because my friends and all that, we all grew up in the same time, and they all recognize this amazing 80s soundtrack and feel to the movie. But, I showed the film to my then, she's 18 now, my 17-year-old daughter, Michaela, and to her friend. She lives in California with her California friends, and all teenagers, all, usually distracted by cell phones and all that. And they watched the movie for the 2 hours, and they were completely engaged. They loved the soundtrack. They were at the end of the movie asking me, what was that song? I want to Shazam it and find it on Spotify. And so it was amazing that, I got to that audience, which is amazing with these songs that are, 40 years old. So I think the songs back then just made people happy, and it makes me happy. And I'm hoping to infuse that to, all the film festivals that we get into, because most people comment like you have, the amazing performances, the look of the film is great. And then the soundtrack, it's really the three wins right there.
Yeah. And it is such a delightful film. And most of this is you're carried through on the story and the little details. Here's something I challenge people to when they watch Drinkwater the second time, because it's not a movie you just watch once. This is a movie you show your kids. This is a movie when you're feeling down. You want to watch the performance, I think, of, and I'm going to get I have to look together. Yeah. Sure. Bob Fraser. Watch Bob Fraser's performance at the end, because there's a crowd scene. And this is what I loved, either credited to the writing, credited to the direction, or credit Bob Fraser. I don't care, but he stayed in character. Well, the coach is up there giving this speech and touching thing. You look in the crowd, Bob Fraser is not smiling. Yeah, he's straight ahead. Yeah, these are the little details in films that I think that really sort of solidify them as a story and within their own world.
Yeah, and that's a very excellent point, because we shot this movie, which I'm very, very proud of. We shot the whole thing in 16 days, which is insane to do a movie in that short amount of time. So the fact that you picked that out is a great testimony to Bob Fraser, because he stayed in character. We were shooting 3 cameras that day. We had like an hour to shoot that whole scene. It was insane. The weather was changing. It was starting to rain. And, I can't do everything at one time. I was even operating one of the cameras, and so thank God that he just stayed in his character and gave us that performance, because he's supposed to be a hard ass, but he does have that nice little change after. So it's testimony to just getting a great cast, and that's the key. What Clint told me a long time ago, he says, get a great script, get a great cast, and get a great crew. And then he says, that's it. And then he goes, oh, no, get a good caterer too, because gotta some good food. So that's it. That's all you need to make a movie.
Yeah. Well, you have a wonderful career. I see that you got another movie coming up. And I also want to take a trip backwards because I really want to see your first film, which I haven't yet, but I see that it's available on some of the streaming.
Exactly. Yeah. Momentum. It's a fun action film. It's just car chases and bank robberies and stuff like that. And, it has, I've done a few films with Morgan Freeman, and he said, I want to be in your first movie you direct. And I'm like, okay. So I asked him, I said, you want to be in this movie? He goes, yeah. So, he plays the president. It's kind of cool. It's a small cameo, but, he's in there, and he did an amazing job. And I'm very proud of the film because, again, not a lot of money or time, but we managed to really make it look like it was a lot bigger than its budget. So I'm very proud of that film.
I could spend all day chatting with you. The people the work you've done. I think Richard Jewell was one of the great films. I know you worked on that underrated movie.
Yeah, great movie.
In so much as I could see Richard Jewell, and not a whole lot of people really understand just how impressive a work that is. Also, Mystic River, which I think is one of the great films.
That's probably one of my favorite. Yeah, and that's, people always ask me, what's your favorite Clint Eastwood movie? And, $1 Million Baby is amazing and worthy of the Oscar. But I think Mystic River was probably Clint's most powerful film. I mean, Unforgiven was, but that was just before my time. But yeah, Mystic River is beautiful. It gets me every time. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And that's why those are great movies. And that's why we made Drinkwater, because we need people to laugh. We just you gotta laugh. The world's too heavy right now. Everything's crazy out there. So we literally had the intention of, I think we're all going to need a good laugh through this pandemic. And, you get that from Drinkwater. You leave the theater or you leave the online screening, whatever, just happy. And that's I've done my job, and that makes me really happy.
You did. You certainly made me happy. I loved the film. I loved the performances.
Awesome.
And I love speaking with you. And you know what? I wish this was live so that the audience who are watching this right now can interact, because I know they have tons of questions.
Yeah.
But sometime you'll come back to the Kingston Film Festival.
I would be honored to. I'd love that. Absolutely. Definitely.
Okay. And then I'll let you take a picture of you and me having a beer to put beside the Brando picture.
That's right. And I'll frame it next to Brando's picture.
I think you should. Thank you so much. Take care.
Great talking to you. Absolutely. All the best.